Stop for speeding. 54 and 35 coming off the bridge. She asked me where the speed limit was, saying that it's before she got off the bridge. She actually did a U-turn. We were in the 35 zone. We pull over here. I introduced myself. I said, any reason why we're driving this fast? And I said, you got your license. She immediately goes into, I don't need a license to drive the vehicle. Okay.
Welcome back. This is Jason Matthews. I'm a recently retired law enforcement officer. I was also a use of force instructor and a taser instructor during my career. And this is part 2 as I continue to comment on this public domain video that was released out of Florida. I'm giving you my perspective on what I might be thinking if I was in this officer's shoes, what actions I might consider, and also giving you some information that the general public doesn't know about law enforcement based on my training and experience. I don't know the details of this incident, and this is all hypothetical. Being a body camera is a limited, static view of the incident. I'm just reacting to what I'm seeing while I'm watching in real time, just like you. But before we get started, if you support the police, click the like button. And if you do not support the police, click the dislike button. It's anonymous, and I'm just curious of where you stand. Okay, let's get started. When we left off in part 1, if you haven't watched that, go back and watch part 1. We have an officer who conducted a vehicle stop on an individual. And now the supervisor has come into play. He has called the supervisor, and the supervisor has stepped in and is now leading the interaction. So let's continue on where we left off and see what happens.
And they said, I am traveling.
Okay. So you do need a license to drive a vehicle. And you do have to identify yourself to these officers.
I do not have to have a license to drive a vehicle.
Yes, you do.
Did you hear what he said, the supervisor? The supervisor said, you do have to identify yourself. And again, in most jurisdictions, that is the case. Now, there may be jurisdictions, a rare jurisdiction out there where you don't have to identify yourself. I don't know of it. I've never heard of it. But generally speaking, if a legal vehicle stop is done on someone, in most jurisdictions, they are required to identify themselves. And if they can't identify themselves based on an identification card, generally speaking, they're required to give their full name and date of birth.
I do not.
You're wrong, but okay.
I know common law, natural law.
I don't care about common law. You're in the state of Florida. You're in the state of Florida. You're in the state of Florida.
It doesn't matter in what state
it does matter.
I'm in the U.S.
It does matter. So you better hope the information you gave us comes back as to being you. So at this point in time, I need you to shut the vehicle off and step out of the car.
I'm not getting out of the vehicle.
You're going to get out of the car.
I haven't been suspected of a crime.
You are being legally stopped on a traffic stop. You are not being cooperative. It is not a Terry stop. Trust me, I know the difference. You're speeding. Turn the vehicle off and get out of the car. Out of the car now. Undo the seatbelt.
Turn the vehicle off.
Turn it off now.
Officer Schaefer, unbuckle her. So that's it.
Put all that down.
Step out, turn around, face away from me. Turn around, face away
Turn
from me.
around.
I do not have to have a driver's license to drive a vehicle.
Yes, you do.
No, I do not.
Well, then you can tell that to the judge if you end up going to jail.
Now, it appears that handcuffs are being applied, restraints, handcuffs to the individual. So I have a question for you, viewers. At this point, is it justified? Applying handcuffs is a use of force. It is a use of force. It is a lower level use of force. But I'm asking you, do you believe, based on what you've seen in part 1 and so far in part 2, comment below, do you believe that it is justified that the officer is applying handcuffs to this individual?
I do not have to have a driver's license to drive a vehicle. I have all the laws right there.
I don't care what laws you say you have.
I know that you don't care because you're supposed to be a police officer.
Then you should know that
officer.
you should know that this conversation's over then.
Right, because you don't care about the laws. You don't care about our rights. That's the problem.
Have a seat.
I need to call.
Have a seat.
I need to call somebody. Yes, I do.
You call somebody from Santa Rosa County Jail.
Excuse me?
You call somebody from Santa Rosa County Jail, you're under arrest.
I live right down there.
Where's your ID out of, or your license out of?
Mississippi.
Let me ask you another question related to the prior question I just asked. The officer has specifically stated now that she is under arrest. Is that justified based on what you've seen in part 1 and so far in part 2? So they put handcuffs on the individual, which doesn't necessarily mean they're under arrest, because there's a difference between being detained. The officer in part 1 specifically said she is being detained, but now I believe it's the supervisor is saying that she's under arrest. There's a difference between being detained and being under arrest. He has converted the detention to an arrest. So I ask you again to comment down below, is this arrest justified based on what you have seen?
I just thought you didn't have one. You just said you don't need one.
This is ridiculous.
It's not ridiculous. We're not going to play any of these games with you tonight.
It's not a game. This is my rights as a
citizen. It's not your rights.
Yes, it is.
No, it's not. You're in the state of Florida. The state of Florida requires you to have a driver's license to operate a motor vehicle.
Sir, it doesn't matter what state I'm in.
See, that's your problem, is you say it doesn't matter, but it does.
In
this country, it does.
Car.
I don't care about what laws you say you have.
You should care about the laws and the rights of citizens. You're a
we know
officer.
your rights. We know your rights.
No, you
don't. You don't know your rights.
Yes,
no, you don't.
So this is what I was referring to before, is we have the U.S. Constitution. And the U.S. Constitution, anything that is not reserved for the U.S. federal government is automatically reserved to the states or to the people. So that means that gives the power from the Constitution for states to enact laws. And then state constitutions, for example, this is Florida, they can allow local entities, local governments to enact local laws, whether it be a county or a city.
Yes, I do.
Because if you knew your rights, you knew, or you would know and should know, that you must have a driver's license to operate a motor vehicle. And if I find out that if I find out that you are not giving us the right information to identify you,
the right information, why would I do that? I'm trying to use my rights as a legal citizen. Why would you do that?
Well, you would do that because you don't have a valid driver's license.
I don't have a valid driver's license. I don't have to have a valid driver's license.
You do.
No, I do not.
Okay.
I do not.
Then we'll let the judge determine that.
We will let you can't arrest me. I haven't done anything wrong.
We can arrest you.
So again, the U.S. Constitution, the U.S. federal government, Congress, through the Constitution, Florida is a ratified state within the United States. And so Florida is able to enact laws, specifically the law that someone, when operating a motor vehicle, we're not getting into the word games of driving or traveling. Operating is the correct word in most states. Operating a motor vehicle. The state of Florida, which derives its authority from the U.S. Constitution to enact laws, can make laws, and in this case, the law requiring someone to have a valid operator's permit. In most states, it's called an operator's permit to operate a vehicle.
No, you can't.
If you don't have a valid driver's license, we most certainly can.
Can I please call my mother?
You cannot.
Why?
Because you don't need to call you. Are you an adult?
Yes.
Then why do you need to call your mother?
To come and get me from jail since I'm being illegally detained.
You will be able to call her once you get there.
Can I at least lock my car?
We will make sure it is secure.
See, so now let's have a discussion about body cameras here. Me personally, I have an issue with body cameras. I think the negatives outweigh the positives to body cameras. There are some positives to body cameras, but let's talk about the negatives, especially in this case, and what I believe is happening in my experience. When a body camera is recording, law enforcement is hesitant to take actions that they normally would take if a body camera wasn't present, that they're legally allowed to take. Why? Because they know that something like this can be released to the public. And so they have a feeling that they have an obligation to go above and beyond and hesitate in their actions and explain their actions ad nauseum, because they know that there is a good possibility this could be released to the public. And the public is not very forgiving to law enforcement, generally speaking. And so here we have an officer talking and talking and talking and talking. Me personally, I would just do my job. I don't need to give all these explanations. I will give a basic explanation, but generally speaking, people will argue, and it's not worth it. It's not worth it. You're just wasting your breath, arguing and arguing and arguing. And so that's why, one of the reasons that I'm against body cameras. There are other reasons that I will talk about those reasons in future videos, but that's one of the downsides of body cameras, in my view.
What are you going to do with my car?
Probably tow it.
Why?
Because you are driving without a license.
I don't have to have a license to drive. That is commercial driving.
It is not commercial driving.
Yes, it is.
See, so this is what I believe that she's referring to. I could be wrong, but she's continually saying, I believe I mentioned this in part 1, commercial driving. And that is referring, in my experience, to the reference in the U.S. Constitution to to transportation and commerce. And if you have any other ideas of what she's referencing, let me know down in the comments.
Ma'am, I'm telling you right now. No, stop. I'm telling you, didn't piss us off.
I obviously have, because y'all are detaining me illegally.
No, you're being arrested, is what's happening.
You see how he specified that she's not being detained. Again, she was initially being detained, but now she is officially under arrest. Okay, that does it for part 2. The next part of this video is available on this channel, so go watch it. If you enjoyed this video, click the subscribe button and ring the notification bell to be notified when new videos are released. Take care, have a great day, and we'll see you in part 3. We'll see what happens, what more interesting knowledge this officer has to convey for us to analyze, and hopefully I will be able to analyze it for you and explain things that you, if you are just a general member of the public, that you may or may not understand.